All right, welcome back to that 90s pod. You ready to go deep?
Always.
Okay, cool. So today, it's Killing Me Softly by the Fugees.
Nice.
Like 90s royalty, right?
Yeah.
This song
For sure.
was everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it than just being a chart topper. Like the whole story of how it came about, how it captured like a super specific moment in music.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, so let's unpack all that. You always have the best insights into like how music trends connect to, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What was going on when Killing Me Softly dropped?
Okay. Well, Killing Me Softly came out right when everything was like blending together, musically speaking. Hip hop was changing. R&B was like finding its new sound, and soul music was getting, reinterpreted for a new generation.
Right.
And the Fugees, they just embodied all that. Reggae, rap, soul, that was their signature.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about like mixing genres. It was like deeper than that. They captured like how we were feeling, what it was like to be a teenager back then.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember
Yeah.
feeling that vulnerability and resilience in their lyrics.
For sure. For sure.
So we got to remember, right? The song wasn't like total new.
Yeah, good point.
It was based on like a classic Roberta Flack's version from the 70s.
Classic soul ballad.
Right. But the Fugees took it and flipped it, hip-hop beats, Wyclef's verses, and then Lauryn Hill's vocals. Like,
Well,
wow.
no, for sure. Lauryn Hill, I mean,
Right. It just blew everyone away.
absolutely.
So, okay, we got this soul ballad turned hip-hop anthem. But what made it so groundbreaking? Was it like just the genre bending?
It's more than that. It's how they used the original. They sampled it, but they
Yeah.
weren't just like copying it. They made it something completely new.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that became like their trademark and had a massive influence on hip hop in
Yeah.
the years that followed.
So it's like they took that essence of soul
Totally.
and made it speak to like a generation
Yeah.
raised on hip-hop.
Exactly. Yeah.
And okay, we got to talk about Lauryn Hill's vocals.
Yeah.
I mean, she just poured her heart into every word.
Oh, absolutely. Her vocals on that track, one take, it was pure emotion.
Yeah.
The phrasing, the tone, the way she like balanced vulnerability and strength.
Yeah.
Nothing else sounded like that on the radio.
It was powerful.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the music, was it? I mean, the Fugees themselves, their backgrounds, all of that fed into their sound.
Definitely. Wyclef from Haiti, Praz's Haitian-American heritage, Lauryn Hill, African-American, they brought all of that together.
Yeah.
Their music reflected that, like multiculturalism.
Right. Which was so 90s, right?
Totally.
Like America was changing and they were like a reflection of that.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was about identity, about belonging.
Yeah.
In a world that was like changing so fast, their success, it showed everyone that you could break barriers,
Yeah, for sure.
Not just with their music, but just by being themselves. And that opened the door for so many other artists to embrace their backgrounds, mix things up musically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It challenged what hip-hop could be.
Right.
It created a whole new world of possibilities.
They're artists for all of us.
Totally.
So if you're just discovering the Fugees, or even if you've known them forever, we're just getting started. There's so much more to their impact on music and culture. And if you're loving this 90s deep dive, make sure you subscribe to that 90s pod.
Yeah.
Share it with your friends. We've got so much more to explore, so stick with us.
It's a wild ride through a decade that redefined music. We're just getting started, It's amazing how Killing Me Softly became like this anthem for a whole generation.
Yeah.
Figuring out love, longing, growing up in the 90s.
It's true. There was something about those lyrics, the honesty and how Lauryn Hill sang them, so vulnerable. It wasn't just like background music. It felt personal, like they were singing about your life.
Yeah. And it tapped into this whole thing that was happening then, Like people wanted things to be real, authentic in music, in everything.
Right. Like the 90s weren't all just grunge and hip hop.
Yeah.
Right. There was this whole like social conscience thing happening.
Oh, yeah.
You had like the Fugees, A Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy.
Absolutely.
Talking about race, identity,
Yeah.
What was wrong with the world.
Exactly. And Killing Me Softly, maybe it wasn't like directly political or anything,
Right.
but it still captured that feeling, that longing for connection in a world that felt, well, pretty divided.
Yeah.
And the Fugees' backgrounds, all of that added another layer,
Definitely.
showing what multiculturalism could be at a time when, well, representation wasn't where it is today.
Yeah. And, when they made it big, it really shook things up.
Oh, yeah.
Like what the music industry thought a successful group should look like.
Uh-huh.
They were breaking down barriers, not just with the music, but just like existing.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for so many artists who came after,
Yeah, to be themselves.
to mix genres.
Absolutely. It changed how people saw hip-hop.
It did.
It showed all these possibilities.
For artists, for everyone.
Totally.
And speaking of shaking things up, remember when Killing Me Softly won that Grammy?
Oh, yeah.
Best rap performance?
97.
Right.
Huge moment for hip-hop.
It was like,
Finally, mainstream recognition.
it legitimized the whole genre.
Yeah.
Opened the door for everyone who came after.
And it wasn't just music, right? Think about all the movies, TV shows.
It was everything.
It became like part of the culture, the soundtrack of the 90s.
I remember hearing it everywhere. Parties, coffee shops, even like family get-togethers.
Yeah.
And even now, when I hear that piano intro,
Oh.
instant time travel, back to the 90s.
It's amazing the power of music, right?
Yeah.
To bring back memories.
You mentioned earlier how this song like really connected with you back then.
Mm-hmm.
Any specific memories?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I remember I was at this summer barbecue with my family. Like, we're all hanging out in the backyard grilling burgers, and someone put on the score. And, oh, man, as soon as Lauryn Hill's voice, came on, everything just, like, stopped. I was mesmerized. It was, like, so raw, so honest. Like, she was singing to me, It became the soundtrack to that whole summer. And now, whenever I hear it, it's like I'm right back there. All those warm, happy memories,
It's amazing how music can do that.
It is. And for me, what always gets me about Killing Me Softly is how it was this massive hit.
Right.
But they never compromised, their sound, their message. It was all real.
That's the power of being genuine, right?
Yeah.
It connects with people.
And, it's wild to think about. They recorded a lot of the score, including Killing Me Softly, in a home studio.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, she shows you don't need a fancy studio
You don't need all that.
to create something amazing.
Yeah. No, you just need the talent, the passion,
It's inspiring.
Definitely. And that DIY spirit, that was so 90s,
Oh, yeah.
Independent labels, alternative rock blowing up, hip-hop going mainstream, all that new tech for making and sharing music.
It was a really creative time.
So creative. And the Fugees were right there leading the way.
It shows you, right, great music, it's not about money or big studios.
Dope.
It's about talent
Passion.
and what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
And for anyone who wants to, really get into the 90s, the music, the culture, everything, make sure you subscribe to that 90s pod. We have tons of episodes, grunge, hip-hop, the internet, everything.
It's a trip back in time.
Yeah, but it also helps us understand, like, how the 90s still affect us today.
For sure.
And if you're loving this Killing Me Softly deep dive, share it with your friends. Let's keep the 90s alive. We'll be right back to wrap things up and explore the lasting impact of the Fugees and their music. Wow, we've really unpacked Killing Me Softly, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
I'm still blown away by how timeless it is.
Me too. It's amazing how relevant it still feels.
Totally. So, like, bigger picture, why does this song still hit so hard, even decades later?
Well, I think it's a few things. First, there's that sound, right?
Yeah.
It's so groundbreaking. They just, threw out the rule book.
Yeah.
Hip-hop, soul, reggae, all mixed up. It was familiar, but totally new at the same time.
And it influenced so many artists.
Yeah. That sampling,
Right.
especially on Killing Me Softly.
It became like a blueprint.
For sure, for sure. And then, of course, you have Lauryn Hill's vocals. I mean, come on.
Right. It's mesmerizing.
So raw, so powerful.
And those themes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Love, longing, being vulnerable.
Those are timeless.
Totally. Everyone feels those things, no matter what generation.
Exactly. And Killing Me Softly captures it all. So honestly, it's hard not to be moved by it.
It's like they understood something,
Yeah.
like deep down, about being human.
Yeah, that need to be
Being understood.
to feel seen.
And they put it all into this incredible song,
They did.
both musically and, like, emotionally.
Exactly.
It's more than just a song at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's a cultural touchstone, like a symbol of a time when music was, breaking down barriers.
Reflecting the world.
Yeah, a world that was changing so fast.
And that's what makes the 90s so fascinating, right? All that creativity, all those
No,
changes.
totally.
And the Fugees, they were right there in the middle of it
They captured that whole era.
with their sound, their message.
Yeah, and that's why they still matter today.
Yeah.
They left this legacy, and it's still inspiring people.
Absolutely.
And anyone out there who wants more, who wants to, like, really understand
Mhm.
the 90s,
The music.
culture, everything. You got to subscribe to that 90s pod.
Yeah.
We've got episodes on everything, grunge, hip-hop, the internet, like the whole 90s experience.
We really go deep.
We do. And, it's not just about the past. It's about how the 90s are still shaping the world we live in.
So true.
So if you love this Killing Me Softly deep dive, share it. Spread the love. And until next time, keep those 90s vibes alive.